Welcome to Landscape Photography World. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show discussing the world of landscape photography. This time I'll be talking to Chris Parry of Chris Parry Photo about his landscape photography journey. Chris is a Sydney-based photographer and has a great looking gallery on his social media feeds. You'll be getting to know Chris a little better and we'll talk about how he got started with landscape photography, what his inspirations and motivations are, and how he's developed his style and what he does and doesn't like about being a photographer. I'll apologise now for the quality of some of the audio on this track. Unfortunately, we're using Zoom and therefore we don't exactly get the quality we'd like. But we've worked through it and we've cleaned it up as best we can. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Hi Chris, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Good, thanks Grant. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Not too bad for a month's worth of lockdown. There hasn't been much shooting happening. None at all, really. But,
no one can get out. I was going to ask you when was the last time you did get out to shoot and where did you go?
I think it was about 3.5 weeks ago, maybe about the second day of lockdown. I might have snuck out, but just local. Haven't been doing anything.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't blame you. I guess just kicking off to starting with asking you about how you got into photography. What got you started, and what's your earliest photography memory?
The earliest photography memories is my father was a keen photographer. He wasn't exactly a professional or anything like that, but he was definitely keen. My father liked taking photos of trains and steam trains. So in some ways, it was a tortured childhood going to far out places to take photos of trains, which I found absolutely boring as anything. But it was sort of interesting. And then Dad would always take the long way to go somewhere because he wanted to go take a photo of something like that. And which was like, can we just get there? And funnily enough, I take the long way to get places. And my ex-girlfriend one night just recently, we were I drove all the way to Stanwell Park to maybe take photos of the of the Milky Way and walked all the way around the rocks and everything in the dark. And then I go, oh, no, this isn't good. And she just absolutely cracked it. So to leave home at 9 o'clock and then walk around the rocks, and it was just sort of hilarious. So I find that quite funny.
Oh, that's wild. So what got you started into landscape photography?
I just think it was just, my brother was also a keen photographer, and I used to go out taking photos with him. But I just, I didn't really feel the urge of taking photos of people. And generally with my photos, they don't generally have people in them. And I used to really have a real issue with having people in my photos and stuff like that. I'm not so... Now I don't sort of mind as much if I have a person or in the photo. Not as much as
I clone them out if I don't want them there.
Exactly. Well, now it's easier to do that, but it just mainly, you get out of the house, you go for a nice walk somewhere, you get to the beach nice and early, or something like that, and it's just it's a good thing to do, I think.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I mean, I just love getting up early in the morning and getting out there and just, I mean, you think about it, you're there watching stuff that 90% of the population of Sydney, for example, if you're at one of Sydney's beaches, don't see, because they're all still in bed, like sensible people.
It's the best, sensible people, but it's the best time of the day, and it's it's always different. I used to go rain, hail or shine, and just even sometimes those days when it's you don't think it's going to be good because I think you can get trapped into the weather, the high cloud forecast and all that sort of jazz. And I think sometimes it's just if you just go, you never know what you're going to get. So
shoot what you shoot, and what's there's there. And I mean, I do take a bit of time to check it out to see, particularly for midweek shoots, if it's going to be worth getting up extra early to go and do a shoot before work, for example.
Exactly. Yeah, I can see that, but then sometimes I find just the that bad weather can be the best weather.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you mean there. I love a good swell or good southerly. Those storms coming through in summer. There's nothing better. So what gear do you use the most?
Well, it's the Nikon Z7 with I would say it's the 14 to 24 f4 is the lens that I use the most, followed by these are the Z mount lenses, followed by the 24 to 7 2.8. It's a great lens, nice and sharp. And then we use Tamron 100 to 400, which is for the long stuff. With the previous setup I used to have a 200 to 70, but I found it was too short.
Yep.
And then we've got the 20mm 1.8 prime, more for the Astro sort of stuff. But I prefer the Astro to be more tighter than super wide with just a tiny little band going up. So
when you're out shooting, what is it that you're looking for? You looking for foreground first, or the sky, or I guess it depends.
A bit of both. Also, as you know, I do a lot of like long exposure sort of stuff. So I'm looking for the clouds, preferably moving fast. Yep. That's always good. We get the nice streaky clouds, mainly coming towards you or away from you. Yep. When they're going across, it can just look like a single streak. Yeah. That's what I would say I'm looking for, especially with the 14 mil. It's a super wide lens that I shoot quite often with. So it's good to get some foreground, but with that lens, you generally get a lot in anyway, and sometimes you can get too much in.
Yeah, I get it. Yep. I sometimes, I mean, I've got, I think 16 mils probably the widest. I've got on the crop sensor cameras, I've got a 10 to 17 mil, which I just find it. I mean, it's okay because it's roughly the same as the 16 mil with the APS-C sensor on it, but it can. The one thing it does let you do is get really, really close to the subject. You can be 2 feet away from something and still get a really wide panoramic shot. But sometimes it's just a bit too wide, and even the 16 mil, I sort of zoom in. I'm normally shooting around that 20 to 24 mil sort of range rather than ultra wide. There's certain shots where it's vital, but others where you need to sort of bring it in a bit. So when did you start shooting with Nikon? Was that sort of where you started, or?
It was about 2.5 years ago. I come into some money to get a good kit together, and prior to that, they've been really supportive too. The people at Nikon Australia, great people. They've lent me some gear over the time, and lent me some cameras and lent me some lenses to test out. And they've featured me a few times on their accounts and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that. But previous to that, I was shooting with Pentax crop sensors.
Okay.
I had quite a few of them, but there was a few reasons why I didn't want to sort of continue on shooting with Pentax. Their cameras are quite different to the Nikons and Canons and Sony's, taking over these days as well. But they do have a lot of sort of innovative features that other cameras don't have, but also they have the lack of user base.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to invest in that system, and you can't get out of it. And not that I like not that I've sold any of that. I've still got all that stuff. I haven't really used it for a long time. Some of it's really hard to get, so I'm just sort of holding on to it. They might have something that pops up, like the 70 to 200 Pentax mount. You can't buy that lenses. There's quite a couple of lenses that I've got, Pentax lenses, that you just can't get anymore. You can get them on eBay, but I'll just hold on to them. They might have something. But I've found their latest offerings, while quite good, are quite expensive for what they are for APS-C cameras. So I think, most normal people would sort of would go towards the the Nikons and Canons and that sort of stuff. And I think Pentax themselves market themselves to their current user base.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what would you say your style is in terms of your landscape photography?
I would say it's sort of like long exposure, sort of beach stuff. That's sort of where most of it comes to. I shoot around the harbour quite a lot. That's it's a easy place for me to get to after work.
Yep.
So that's why I'm quite often on the harbour. It's I just work at Lane Cove, and so I get around the harbour quite a lot, and a lot on the north side at this time of year.
Yeah.
You can't make it.
There's just so many spots that you can pick up around there. You get a nice bit of sunset going. You can go just about anywhere on the harbour.
It's classic. And then sometimes I think like I must have shot Kirribilli 5,000 times, but I generally find something new down there every now and then, or there's times where I've gone to Kirribilli and I've just gone for a bit of a walk and I haven't even taken photos. Like, it's not happening today. And I think mainly a lot of that is that these days I just try to shoot more quality than quantity. I think back in the day, you'd run home to post it up as soon as possible and this stuff. And I think that the last shoots that I went on before lockdown, I haven't even put the card out of the camera yet. Yeah. And it's still sitting in there. Whereas, I previously in the past, I would have run home and, fiddled with it and got it posted as ASAP and before the sun went down and that sort of stuff. Whereas I think it's a bit chilled out more these days and don't see the urgency of the posting and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So in terms of editing and the way you approach that, does that impact the way that you shoot now, or vice versa? The way you shoot impacts, or is it a mixture?
No, I think with the editing, it's I don't really worry about that when I don't think about the edit when I'm shooting. It's more of if there's issues, I can sort that out after. Yep. Obviously you can straighten things up if you've got a little bit of dark.
Trying to do more in camera than anything, or
a lot of the time, because with the long exposure stuff, sometimes if you do a long exposure, you put the 10 stop on at sunset, you've only got 2 or 3 shots.
Yeah, you won't get too many shots anyway. Yeah,
you won't get too many shots. So in that regard, I do try to time my exposures so they're balanced and that. But you sometimes with that long exposure and the 10 stop, you don't know what you're going to get until it's finished, and sometimes you can pull that out in post. The Z7's good for that because it's got more leeway than previously, whereas with the APS-C, it's got more leeway and you can pull up more, and obviously being it's a high megapixel camera, you can do some good crops if you want to. If there's something that was annoying you in the side, you can crop that out, and it's not going to really have any effect on your photo.
Yeah.
And one of the things, instead of cropping these days, I've been using the scale tool in Photoshop, which I think I'm just like, why didn't I find that 5 years ago?
Yeah, I use that a lot, and I just find it. I mean, it's really useful. I think, particularly, the most times I use it is when it's fixing perspective. You know, you got that tilt down or tilt up with the wide angle lens, and you got buildings pointing out or pointing into the center and whatever, you know, and just trying to get the perspective so that they look straight. So I use the scale there because, you know, sometimes what can happen is when you fix the perspective and everything's straight, then it's either shrunk or grown. And so I use the scale to sort of make that perspective the right size. But I have also used it a couple of times for cropping or not cropping, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's like the reverse crop.
Yeah.
Which I quite like it, and don't know exactly how it works, but because my files still come out the same size, so I don't know, there must be some magic in there.
Yeah, well, I think you'd have to learn a lot more about Photoshop than I know to you know, understand how some of that stuff works. I mean, I kind of see how some of it works. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched any of the videos from what's his name, Marco Rudis, I think his name is, from F64 Academy. But I mean, he knows in detail exactly what's going on in Photoshop, and he sort of shows it so he can, you know, if you pull a contrast lever or, you know, HSL, he can show you exactly what it's doing at a pixel level to the color values and the light values and all that sort of thing, you know. Which I just blows my mind when I see some of his videos. I've learned a lot out of that, but you know, it's I mean, it's not the be all and end all. There's a lot of other guys out there doing that sort of stuff, and I just think it's worthwhile learning as much as you can about the tools. But I also don't go nuts. I don't go down to that level that he's doing.
No, I think I'd be running on like intermediate skills or something like that. I've never done any courses on it or anything like that, so I just you know, I've learned a lot of various people, and then if I ever get stuck, I refer to YouTube. That's my
same. YouTube University.
The YouTube University, and it's I don't have any specific people that I go for, but if there's one thing that I'm sort of looking for, I'll just type in the search for that, and search
and play and watch what they're doing, and then try it out. Yeah, I've done a heap of that myself. It's I mean, it's just one of the best tools that have been invented. I reckon YouTube, the amount of stuff that you can learn how to do. You know, everything from Photoshop all the way to building a house. You know.
Yeah, exactly. It's always handy for fixing the car and all sorts of things.
Yeah, if you've got a specific model of car that, you know, somebody's got a video, there's always somebody that's got a video about how to do this or that on it. Yeah, it's amazing. So what do you think is the most important element to your photography, and why is it so important to you?
Well, just basically, like in the basics, Look, obviously, people say, "Oh, it's not the camera; it's this, that, and the other." But having good lenses is definitely a bonus. When I swapped from Pentax to Nikon, I did see a bonus.
Yep.
But also, in saying that, before I got I think I got the most out of the Pentax and got my skill level up to using the Nikon to a sort of adequate skill to sort of get the most of it. But the basic thing I think is a good tripod. That's a good sturdy tripod will do wonders for your just normal sort of run of the mill photographer. That was probably the biggest first upgrade that I ever had. I would say.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I think if particularly if you're doing in anything long exposure or astro or whatever, if you can get a nice sturdy mount that doesn't move and isn't going to shake in the wind or wobble about at all, it's absolutely vital. Because I certainly couldn't shoot what I shoot handheld. I mean, there's some stuff that I do handheld, but none of the 10-stop long exposures, you're never going to be able to do anything. I mean, some of mine are 7 or 8 minutes, and you just can't hold it still that long.
Nah. And then so I think that's probably if you're looking for your basic sort of stuff is just a good tripod, and then you get filters. I've used various different types of filters over the years, and I currently use the Nissi ones. They're quite good. I've had high-tech ones, Hoyas, BMWs. I used to use circular filters.
Yep.
But now it's just generally the square ones. I don't use a polarizer though.
Nor do I. I haven't found a need for it. I know people get right into it and gets rid of reflections off the water and whatever. But I have honestly haven't found a use for a polarizer yet myself.
Well, it's quite often those reflections have got the colours in it as well. So
exactly.
If you get rid of them, you get rid of the colours as well.
So what's your favourite spot? Where's your happy place?
I would say that's probably at Caves Beach.
Yeah.
Up near Lake Macquarie. That's one of my favourite spots. Also, my grandparents used to live there.
Yep.
So it's sort of funny going back to a place that used to go to when I was a kid, and stuff like that. No, there's a few spots around there that I've gone that no one else has taken photos of, or wouldn't find just from tracks that I knew from when I was a little kid and stuff like that. So that's and it's a top spot. It's a nice spot. It's not too far as well. It's only about an hour and a half away.
Yeah. I haven't shot up there. I've been up there a couple of times during the day, and it's still on the list. I mean, I haven't shot Catherine Hill Bay either. So there's a stack of places that I
haven't shot Catherine. Oh,
sorry?
you got to go.
No, I know. I know. It's a bucket list. I know. Just haven't had the opportunity to be there at the right time, and it just hasn't worked out for me. So I'll need to get up early one day and get up there.
That was I was going to say Cathay was the favourite, but it's definitely on the top 10 list. Cathay. Yeah. That's it's such a unique place. So it's sort of it's with the wharf here in New South Wales coast. There's sort of nothing like it, really.
Yeah. I've seen some fantastic shots up there, and there's just so many different comps that you can set up there. From what I can tell, I mean, I've probably seen about, even in the last sort of 6 months, I've probably seen about 30 or 40 different compositions that people have put up from, that people have posted. And, I like a spot like that you can go to time and time again and come up with something completely different than the last time you go to, because otherwise, it does get a bit routine. If you're always sort of shooting the opera houses, there's a few places that you can go, and it's but it just gets a bit samey unless the sky's doing something interesting.
It does get a bit samey, and that shooting in Sydney, it's sort of hard to avoid. Because as you know, there's quite a lot of other photographers there, and so sometimes you can get something that you wouldn't have known. Someone else has got something very similar, or what have you. So it's always who claimed this
only
first,
only so many places you can stand, isn't there?
Exactly. And it's hard to get a different side of the Opera House or the Harbour Bridge or what have you. It's I think there's probably 100 of each version.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So where do you talking about that, and the I guess the volume of photographers and the volume of photography that goes on, particularly around Sydney and those sorts of things. Do you think social media's impact on photography has been good, bad, indifferent?
Oh, look, it can only be good. It can only be good. Then there would be with social media. There's parts of it that are not good, and there's parts of it that are good. There's, I think the bad part with social media is you can get yourself too caught up in it, and thinking about what other people are taking photos of, and their last comparing yourself to other people, and
comparing how many likes you've got versus you and all that sort of thing.
All that sort of thing. You can get caught in that, and that part of it can be bad. I think it can be, sure enough. If I have a post that goes well, I'm happy about that, and I don't think that's a problem. But it's not necessarily my number one part of it is to get this next post that has X amount of this and that, and to have X amount of followers and that sort of stuff. So
I don't set targets, and very, very rarely would I even mention how many followers I've got or how many likes I've got on something. I do look at it, but I don't really measure myself on it. To me, it's about the quality.
Exactly. And then I've met some photographers that have really huge followings, some that have small followings. I've met some that have huge followings and could barely turn the camera on.
Yeah.
Which is, you go, how does that work? And I've met, great photographers that don't have huge followings. So it's sort of swings and roundabouts. It's just a big following. It's just a number, You can't buy a house with it. So
it just means that you've either been there longer.
Car with it. So.
Yeah, you've either been there longer, or somebody's somebody's helped you promote it some way, And it's one of the things that
there's over the years there's been many different various ways of people. You could say cheating the system, or just finding another quirk of how to rig it and all that sort of stuff. But it was never really the top priority for me.
Yeah.
And if anything, I would say these days I spend less time on social media, just to pure time constraints. I think I used to come home and spend hours and hours on it, but these days it's dropped dramatically for me, the amount of time that I spend on it.
Yeah, fair enough. Have you gotten into the NFT space at all? non-fungible tokens and selling art online?
No, no. Look, it was a bit of a hot topic, and I did sort of look it up a little bit when it sort of first sort of sprung to everyone's attention. Look, sure enough, I'd love to get into it, and someone can, pay $10 million for one of my JPEG files.
Yeah.
That would be very appreciative. If there's anyone out there, send Grant a message. And if they want to pay millions and millions of dollars for an old JPEG of mine, no worries. We could put all the JPEGs together. But it's that sort of cryptocurrency sort of space is sort of, is it real? Is it real money? Is it going to be around in 10 or 15 years' time? And then,
what happens when everybody switches all the computers off?
Exactly. And then for me, I've never really made a big thing about selling my stuff. And I've actually, when I sell my stuff, it's not actually, I don't actually enjoy it, funnily enough.
Really?
So I've never sort of looked at the hobby as sort of like a money-making thing or something like that. I like the process, and then, sure enough, I should try and, capitalise and make more money for the amount of petrol and Ks and equipment and braking stuff and tripods and all that sort of stuff. They would have to pay lots and lots for these NFTs for me to break even.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean there. And I've only recently put up a print shop on online, and I've sold a couple, which is nice. But I know realistically, unless I end up like being landscape photographer of the year for some award or whatever, and you get and I've got 100,000 followers, then maybe I'll sell a few or enough to make a living out of it. But I don't see that happening in the next couple of years anyway.
No, and look, I'm happy with my job. It's it pays the bills these days, and photography. Any money that I've ever earned off it has just been sort of handy and beer money, as you would say, and it's that's the way. And it's always the sales for me have always rolled in like a sort of wave where I would get a few inquiries at once, and then it goes quiet for a few months, and I'll get a few inquiries at once, and and that's I'm happy with that. I'm not trying to buy this off people. It's just, I don't find it my style sort of thing is to push and that ties into the influencing, like there is a few influencer apps out there where you can sign up for promoting products and this, that, and the other on social media.
Yep.
But half the time I see them, it's what was the one they had last week is for Abbott's bread, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Take a photo of a loaf of bread and say it's awesome bread or something, like But
we're going to take a shot of a wheat field. What you want is a nice lonesome tree in a wheat field.
Exactly. But and then sure enough, there's lots of people banging on the door to take up that bread job or Big W or whatever they have. But it's just and then they pay $140. Oh, what do I want to take a photo of a loaf of bread for $150 for?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So that sounds like one of the things you don't like about being a photographer. What do you and don't you like about it?
Well, I don't like the early mornings, but I do like the early mornings. And then so that's that's the double-edged sword. And then, look, there's a lot of good things. I've had a lot of good opportunities and met a lot of good people through it. So, and then I think back to what I used to do before I sort of got into this hobby. I didn't really do much.
Yeah.
So that's, I get out and about and, go various places. And I think that's the best part of it, just getting out and about, going to places you've never been before and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean there. I think some of my favourite experiences have just been, going to a place that I've heard of or seen a shot of somewhere, and you just go down this path at 4 o'clock in the morning with wombats and wallabies and emus and whatever coming out of the forest in front of you, and you end up at this beach in the pitch dark, and you're hoping that the sunrise is going to be good, and then it is, and it's absolutely marvellous, and you come away with some nice shots.
Well, it's that game of optimism. So
That's
I
right.
think to be a photographer, you have to be an optimist. So, is the glass half full? Is it half empty? Well, if you don't go and find out, you'll never know.
That's right. You got to be in it to win it.
Optimism. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, how have you handled the pandemic? What's been going on in Chris Parry's world during the pandemic?
Well, we've been going through the pile of hard drives. We've got an excess amount of hard drives, especially since you shoot a 47 megapixel camera.
Yep.
You can rack those hard drives up pretty quick. And I'm just going through the old stuff and watching a bit of Netflix, a bit of binge, a bit of Prime, annoying the neighbours with the stereo system.
That's always fun.
That's always fun. Well, I had to get rid of some speakers because I had too many, but that's another story.
Fair enough. Well, what do you like to do when you're not out shooting, other than Netflix?
That's. I'd just like to come home and relax. I'd say that's the main thing is just to come home and relax, and then pizza, food, eating, just the standard stuff. Nothing. Sort of. I remember once someone said, "Oh, what do you do on the weekends?" And I said, "Oh, I go and take photos." And they're like, "Oh, what else do you do?" And I'm like, "I go and take photos." Is there anything else you do? And I'm like, "Yeah, I go and take photos."
Yeah, I sit and edit them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't enjoy the editing as much as I used to. But I think that's also the rush factor. Is I don't like to rush it. And then recently going back through the files you're surprised the first glance over a few months ago and you think, oh, I didn't like that. And there's now something that you can redeeming features that you can find that you like and that sort of stuff. So
yeah, I've found a few. I won't say they're diamonds, but a few gems that have been sitting on the hard disk that I haven't edited before, and I pass them over in the first look. You go through when you're looking for your diamonds, and there's a few that I've found that have surprised me with how I've ended up, with them because they're just otherwise just sitting around on the hard disk doing nothing, and then you go in and take a look and you go, oh yeah, I can do something with that. And part of it is that you've learned a little bit more, I think, along the way between when you last looked at them and now, and you know how to handle it. You might have a little bit of light or a bit of noise that you want to get rid of, and you know how to deal with it now. And for me, it's been an interesting exercise going through the old drives and just seeing what's there and trying to work with what I've got because I can't shoot anything new.
Exactly, and then it's funny how when you look at the old stuff, you're exactly right. Where there's a little new technique that you figured out, and there's always something new on Lightroom and Photoshop and that sort of stuff. I think you're dead right there, Grant.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that you're into pizza, because the most important question's coming up, and that is pineapple on pizza. Yes or no?
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's not my favourite. Not my favourite.
It's controversial, I know. So, is there anything you want to ask me?
Oh, I don't know, Grant. I'm not the best with questions.
No, that's all right. No worries.
No, but I hope the podcast goes well, and I think you probably picked the right time to start something like this. So I hope it's pretty successful for you. Who else have you got coming up?
Oh, I've got a few interesting people. I'm not going to give too much away just yet, because I don't know what order I'm going to release everything in. I'm trying to bank a few episodes together so that I can release them. So I don't want to say too much here. I'll talk about them before I record each one and online. But I want to keep it so that if I say, oh, I've got XYZ coming up, and I've actually already released their episode, it's going to sound a bit weird.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, no, fair enough. I do know one that you've got coming up. They did mention it to me. So
okay, all right. Well, they're on the list. No, I've been blown away with the response so far. The number of people that I've asked that have said yes. I mean, there's been a couple of people just say no, not right now. They're probably not in the right headspace, or they're busy doing other things, and that's fine. I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time now to sit with us and give us a bit of your experience, and give people that are listening I guess the wisdom of Chris, and
the wisdom of Chris. Lots of people would argue about my wisdom if I had it. But no, it's no problems, Grant. It's been the highlight of my day today, because all I did go and get the newspapers and go and get a COVID test, because I've been getting tested weekly just as a work, because I'm still going into work. Not many other people are going into work.
Yeah.
But and it also makes me feel better to
don't blame you. I went and got tested yesterday, because where my wife and one of my daughters works, they had someone come into the shop, because they're working in retail at the moment, and unfortunately they haven't closed, but they had someone come into their shop last week. So we went. I'm fully vaccinated, which is nice, but I went and got tested yesterday. All came back negative, which is nice. And as long as that keeps happening, I'll be a happy man.
Well, I've got one more vaccination to go, and I'll feel a lot better about it. And I think other people should go and get their vaccination.
Absolutely. If you haven't vaccinated, go and do it now.
Sooner. And I've got a bit of a sore point with those anti-vax people, but each to their own.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into the politics of vaccinations and all the rest of it, but I'm
no, I just thought we'd slide that bit in.
I don't blame you. If people haven't got the message yet, then they need to.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's sort of common sense, but what is common sense?
Absolutely.
Standing on a rock shelf with a 6-foot swell coming at you at sunrise.
Yeah, it's not very common, that common sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Chris, it's been fantastic talking to you, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I just hope everyone listening's enjoyed the podcast, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks very much.
No worries, Grant. Thanks very much.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and will keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. I'm Grant Swinburne, and I hope to see you soon out shooting. Goodbye for now.